Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about cognitive limitations and organization. So if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get to graduate school that I decided to pay the favor forward. So if you've read if you've read any sort of behavioral theory, particularly within organizations or having to do with the behavioral theory of the firm, for example, there's lots of discussions about the cognitive and organizational limitations that we all have. So cognitive limitations meaning that we can't necessarily process all available information. We're really limited on what we can actually process and take in. And we all have different sort of limitations on our abilities. Each individual person has sort of variance in what they can do in terms of processing information. Mine is probably lower than most people. And that's fine, because that's why we have organizations, and organizations are supposed to take into account some of these limitations that we have as individuals and sort of account for those particular things. However, organizations also do have limitations and problems in terms of how much they can process information. It's not just simply, if you aggregate a bunch of people, it's not simply that you can process or you can sort of account for all the limitations that everybody has. So to give you an example, last night I had difficulty sleeping, and I didn't sleep very well. I got up in the middle of the night. I often do that, and I'm up for an hour, right? Just kind of lying in bed, just kind of staring at the wall. I finally go back to bed, and I woke up this morning kind of sort of foggy. And I knew I had an appointment this morning. So I got up, got going, and went off to my appointment. Well, it turned out my appointment was actually scheduled for an hour later. Well, the appointment itself, I thought, well, that's fine. I can go out and do some work in the meantime. I usually bring my laptop in my backpack. However, this was the first time in probably about 2 months that I didn't bring my laptop home, and I left it at work because I was like, oh, I had a great night last night, so I'm just going to leave that at work and not worry about bringing my laptop home. So it turned out I couldn't do any work. So I'm here doing a video right now in my car, explaining what's going on with these particular individual limitations. So what has happened is that my work has been pushed back and I can't get to it. And so as the organization, the place where I work at currently, the institution that I work at is not getting the full amount of work done. I'll try to get some work done later, but my work day has shifted. So here's an example, and this kind of stuff happens on a regular basis for most people, right? That they have experiences like this in a regular day-to-day life. We're not sort of robots. That's really what the whole behavioral theory of the firm means. It's that we're not sort of robots. We can't process all available information, and we make mistakes and errors and things like that, right? So the reason why the information that I couldn't process or my head was foggy was because I didn't sleep very well last night. So that affected my cognitive abilities. And I don't have that very good cognitive abilities at the best of times, and that limited them even more and made it more difficult for me to actually process this information in the morning and be aware of the different appointments that I have. And even with the information technology that we have at our fingertips, right? So scheduling sort of things that I do use Google Calendar, and it's on my Google Calendar. I do have reminders on my phone and all that kind of stuff, all that information technology that is there to help you and remind you to do these particular activities and to make sort of compensate for the limitations that we all have as individuals. And those are organizational sort of tools to ensure that you can get your work done on time. The information technology is organizational tools to get your work done on time. It's just providing some sort of updates or information so you can get things done. And even with all of that, all those information tools and information technology, we still have problems with getting work done. And I don't think I'm unusual in any sort of way. I think a lot of people have these kind of experiences in terms of processing information. So my point is, with this particular video, It's a very real example of what actually happens when we have cognitive limitations. As human beings, we all have cognitive limitations, and how it actually impacts organizations and the performance of organizations. So, because of the difficulties I had sleeping last night, which I think that's not unusual, I woke up, I couldn't process all available information, and I didn't take into account that I should have checked my calendar and saw that the appointment that I had was actually scheduled for an hour later. I was using sort of a routine that I have this appointment on a regular basis, and I was going to go to that at one time, but this particular week it was shifted. So my mind went into sort of mindless behavior and went to where I sort of default to my routine behavior, and it was incorrect, as these kind of things happen in organizations. So that affected the performance of the organization because now I'm going to be a little bit later in terms of how much work I can get done, or a little bit, I'm going to probably get not nearly as much work as I probably should get done because of these limitations that we have. And, going forward, even though that we can implement more information technology and try to account for these particular problems and try to build things like my whole reciprocity project is to account for some of these limitations that we all have. Um, that to build sort of systems like that. We're still as human beings, we're going to experience moments like that where we are imperfect, and we could use other people's help, but and other information technology to account for this stuff. But we still experience these moments where we are going to be limited with what we can possibly do. So, if you like this video about individual cognitive limitations and its impact on organizations. And the example that I gave is my inability to process information in the morning. Please do give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. It's really nice of you. And do take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.